jigsaw puzzle that has bedeviled this country for decades still has huge holes in it.
President Kennedy has been shot in Dallas, Texas.
An overwhelming amount of evidence still points to the fact that Oswald pulled the trigger that day. But was he the lone gunman? Was he acting alone? Or were there others who got away with murder on the grassy knoll? Or lurking somewhere in the shadowy background? Half a century later, those types of conspiracy theories burn just as bright as the eternal flame at JFK's grave. Before we get into all that, let's set the scene here. We're talking about Camelot.
Although the president is running behind schedule, he pauses momentarily to shake a few hands.
A handsome young president and his glamorous wife, Jackie Kennedy, just 34 years old in that pink suit and pillbox hat in Dallas. A generation of Americans remember exactly where they were when Walter Cronkite delivered the tragic news.
From Dallas, Texas, the flash, apparently official, President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time, 2 o'clock Eastern Standard Time, some 38 minutes ago.
People who experienced the tragedy of 9/11 who were alive then understand what a terrible shock it was to the country. The assassination of John Kennedy in 1963 was as great a shock or greater. It affected every American in a way that was immediate.
Why not just shoot Kennedy coming up Houston? There's plenty of time.
Back in the 1990s, Oliver Stone's blockbuster movie JFK stirred up huge interest in the conspiracy theories.
The magic bullet enters the president's back, headed downward at an angle of 17 degrees. It then moves upward in order to leave Kennedy's body from the front of his neck.
Checked. So what do the newly declassified files contain? There are some tantalizing tidbits. For one, the CIA's role in the assassination remains unclear. There's this secret testimony by the former CIA director, Richard Helms. Asked point blank by the Warren Commission, is there any information involved with the assassination of President Kennedy which in any way shows that Lee Harvey Oswald was in some way a CIA agent or agent? The document ends there. Suspiciously, no answer given.
In downtown Dallas, President Kennedy was shot today just as his motorcade left downtown Dallas. Mrs. Kennedy jumped up and grabbed Mr. Kennedy. She cried, "Oh no." The motorcade sped on. A photographer said he saw blood on the president's head. It was believed 2 shots were fired. Keep tuned to your NBC station for the later news.
NBC Newsroom in New York. President Kennedy and Governor John Connally of Texas have been cut down by assassins' bullets in downtown Dallas. We'll repeat that. President Kennedy and Governor John Connally of Texas have been cut down by assassins' bullets in downtown Dallas. They were riding in an open automobile when the shots were fired. The president, his limp body cradled in the arms of his wife, Jacqueline, had been rushed to Parkland Hospital. Clint Hill, a Secret Service agent assigned to Mrs. Kennedy, said he's dead as the president was lifted from the rear of a White House touring car, the famous bubble top from Washington. He was rushed to an emergency room in the hospital. Other White House officials were in doubt as the corridors of the hospital erupted in pandemonium.
Late films have arrived in our newsroom from Dallas showing the scenes of horror and disbelief outside Parkland Hospital. Newsmen hurry to the emergency room. The president's wife arrives, stunned. This is Mrs. Kennedy, in the middle. At this point, no one knew rather, whether the president was alive or dead. Mrs. Kennedy conferring with a Dallas policeman who had sped the president to the hospital. And into the emergency room. Goes Mrs. Kennedy. A corsage of roses lies inside the car in which President Kennedy was shot. A corsage of roses lies inside the car in which President Kennedy was shot. A corsage of roses lies inside the car in which President Kennedy was shot.
Here at the moment, Frank. So we'll switch back to New York for any further details you may have from Dallas or elsewhere.
President Kennedy died at 1 p.m. Central Standard Time.
toured downtown Dallas and opened automobile a short while ago.
The emphasis of one part of the story will
just come
shift
in
from Dallas
Dallas
back
on
to
United Press
Washington. That is
International.
being
Late films have arrived in our newsroom from Dallas showing the scenes of horror and disbelief outside Parkland Hospital. Newsmen hurry to the emergency room. The president's wife arrives, stunned. This is Mrs. Kennedy, in the middle. At this point, no one knew rather, whether the president was alive or dead. Mrs. Kennedy conferring with a Dallas policeman who had sped the president to the hospital. And into the emergency room goes Mrs. Kennedy. A corsage of roses lies inside the car in which President Kennedy was shot. A corsage of roses lies inside the car in which President Kennedy was shot.